Like sometimes I have bad mental health days. I'm just like, instead of pushing it, I'm just going to ride this wave and we'll be back at it tomorrow. So, just kind of like learning to go with the flow with things, which hasn't always been easy for me. Cause I've seen some days like you just never know what tomorrow's going to bring. You could have like, you just never know what's around the corner, especially like in the social media world.
You are so sweet to join us, Kate Steinberg. Welcome to the show.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
For those who are not seeing Kate face to face, or who for some reason don't know her name, although I think if anyone saw your face, they would definitely know who you are at this point. She's a digital creator. You probably have seen her on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and she makes the most amazing videos recreating like trends and lip singing songs from the 90s and 2000s, and has amassed like insane followings, like over 2 million followers on TikTok, over 1 million YouTube subscribers, I think almost 1 million Instagram followers. You're just everywhere.
Thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate that. And
It's
I'm so,
true.
h- I'm so hard on myself. And I feel like, well, we can probably get into that, but I appreciate everything. I'll just take the compliment.
I please do, because you deserve it. I would love to know that when you're at a party and people ask you what you do, how do you introduce yourself?
Great question. I say content creator. I feel like I lead with that. And then when I say it and trying to act professional about it, they're like, what? And then I'm just like TikToker. Like that's the best way to like describe to somebody. Like I like
There's not
that's
much else
yeah.
you can do
There's
there.
exactly like I try to like lead with like a job title, and then I'm just like, yeah, I'm on TikTok, Instagram. Like that's it. Yeah,
Just look me up. You'll understand. Then do you ever like have to
exactly.
explain when they're like, what do you do? And you're kind of like, well, I recreate like trends, and then do they get confused?
Yes, because when I go into it, they're like, "Oh, what kind of, like, videos do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I do, like, 2000 skits," and that's confusing, so then I'm like, "Pretend you shopped at Abercrombie," like and then they're like, "Oh, I got it." Like, I have to connect the dots. I have to break it down to, I shopped at, like, Abercrombie videos, and they're like, "Okay, we got it." Yeah.
So I would love to know, because I don't think I've seen, and I was digging around, but I don't think I've seen a video where really you talking about how you got here. Like, what did you do before this? I'm assuming you didn't start fresh out of college making TikToks. And how did you get here?
Okay, I don't really talk about it, and fresh out of college, it was just Vine. Like, it
I
was the
remember
beginning of
Vine.
Vine. Snapchat just came out. Instagram, we were, like, still doing, like, the sepia with borders when we posted photos,
Yeah.
like so, yeah, we were not even, like, in the TikTok realm yet. So, right out of college, I graduated from DePaul in Chicago, and I went straight into advertising. I didn't know till like my senior year what I wanted to do. So I was like, oh, I like to write. I like art. Let's go be a copywriter with no writing background. So I like hustled my senior year to like get an internship at an ad agency. And this was like the very like competitive days of advertising when you'd have to have a portfolio and really like, it was just like you and your skill in this portfolio like that. Like, I don't even know if they still do portfolios like how they used to, but, because people went to portfolio school, which was also another thing. But I went to advertising, worked like 9 years on like the ad agency side. And then, in 2021, I switched to, or 2020, I went corporate and was the writer at Ulta Beauty, which hands down was my favorite job ever.
Oh my gosh, how fun.
Yeah.
So you were at Ulta when you started doing TikToks, like simultaneously, I'm
Yeah.
assuming?
So I remember being at this agency called FCB, and it was like 2019. TikTok came out, and I downloaded it, and I was like, how was I was 27. I was considered like one of the older ones. Like people thought it was so weird that I downloaded this app. I was making videos in the bathroom, but I remember I skated for the Chicago Blackhawks, and I remember making a video about like in my uniform at a game. This was like so rebellious, and I made a video and it blew up. And I was like, and then from there, I would come back to every game being like, I got like 800 followers, 1,000, I'm at 5,000. Like from there, it kept going. And then I did a lot of like dating single content. And this was just like, so I've been on the app for a long time, but I didn't officially like, I would say like things didn't start taking off for me. And I took it seriously not until like 2021. And I'm going to tell you like right now, it's 2024 and I still feel like I'm hustling on the app, like on everything. Like it doesn't ever end. That feeling of like never enough or you're never doing enough. I feel like it's been with me since I first got on the app till I'm here.
Still, 2019, that was like before the curve. I think most people got on it around 2020, like around COVID
Yeah.
time. That's when it really blew up. But
Like
you were ahead of your time.
I mean, I was on it for a long time. And I remember hearing like little like chirps about this girl named Charlie D'Amelio, like all these like middle school boys were making videos about this girl, Charlie. And I was like, who is this girl, Charlie? Like that's how long I'd been on it. And it wasn't though until I started in like 2020, 2021, I started making videos about the American Girl doll, and that's what blew up. But that was also the thing that like lit me up inside was talking about nostalgia. I've always remembered feeling like I had so much knowledge about like nostalgia early 2000s and I just had nowhere to put this like plethora of like knowledge I have until
I
I
love
found
that.
TikTok and that American Girl doll video and I was like, "Wait, I like this." And I just kept leaning into it more and more.
I love that. So you kind of like found your voice in this like nostalgia, like recreating these trends. It wasn't always
Mhm.
like you started out with skating videos and dating
Oh,
videos and
I and I think this is like something I no, it was 2 years of throwing shit at the wall, trying to find my thing, trying
yeah.
to find the thing that made me happy, trying to find that series, and I'm so grateful for my fiance who would listen to me every day being like, "I just wanna find my thing. I just wanna find my thing." And, like, so it took a while to find the thing that made me happy, which was talking about, like, the 2000s and coming from advertising, like, in writing for like, writing commercials, like, I found my passion in, like, writing skits. Like, it just
Yeah.
took a while. Like, it and, like, that's the advice I give to people is, like, if you're trying to find your thing, you might have to throw 100 videos at the wall, or you might have to throw 3. Like, you just never know because you just never know with the algorithm, like, what will get swooped up and so, yeah.
If you are listening to this podcast, you are probably a fan of inspirational quotes. And if that's the case, then you should check out my book. I feel that it's a cute little retro book with each chapter being a different emotion and then quotes that can help you with that emotion. So if you're looking to support me or the show, if you need a cute little gift for a friend or just something to flip through when you're feeling down one day, then this book is for you. You can purchase it at quotesbychristy.com, which is my website, or the link will be in the show notes. So let me know what you think. I want to go back to your best advice, but also, when did you then go full-time content creation? Like, when did you realize like this can be a career and you quit your job at Ulta?
Yeah, so I was at Ulta for 2 years, and in June 2022, I got advice from another creator I admire, and I remember seeing him at a party in LA. Like, I flew out to LA for Lance Bass's, birthday
Fancy.
party. So no, this was, like, the most insane thing for me. I was
Oh my
like, I
gosh.
no, and I, like, booked tickets for Chad and I was like, "We're not missing this." But I met a creator, he's actually a very good friend of mine, Josh Zillerberg, and that was the first night I met him. He does, like, the thank you videos. He's so
Oh,
talented and cool.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yes,
I love
okay.
him.
He is so amazing, and he gave me advice. I remember asking him, like, when's a good time to quit?" And he's like, wait until you hit 1,000,000 on TikTok." And at the time, I was at 500,000, and I was like, I have 500,000 to go. Like, I will never quit my job. Like, this will never happen. But I took that advice so seriously. And then I hustled for another, like, maybe it was like half a year or almost a year from there. And I waited until I hit that million. And when I did, I also, at that point, I signed with an agency. And they opened my eyes up to like how you can earn money, which through partnerships, which I had no clue about. Like, I had no clue how people were making money. I was doing everything for a gift card. I was just kind of like happy to be here kind of thing. And I still am just happy to be here. But it definitely was with the help of like learning about like how you get partnerships and monetizing. And then
Yeah.
also just waiting till I felt comfortable. You kind of know in your gut when you're like, I am ready to take that leap. And it was the scariest leap, like of all time.
Yeah, but seems like it turned out. That's wild though that even like you were at 500,000 and in less than a year, like it really just shows the power of like when you take off, like generally it's in a big way. I mean, it used to be. I
Yeah.
think it's a lot harder now.
It definitely like it's kind of crazy because there's some people who will blow up overnight. Like
Yeah.
we've seen you see people who blow up overnight and also there's people who are also just grinding. You just really never know, but I remember hearing Victoria Paris, I'm pretty sure it was her that said you don't have to be creative, but you have to be consistent. And I feel like
Hmm.
consistency is one of the most valuable things no matter what like platform you're on, like showing up every day or as much as you can, like that's possible in your schedule.
Yeah.
Just being consistent with like just showing up and trying and because it's so easy to get discouraged on like any app or whatever you're doing. Like if something doesn't hit, like it's easy to be like, all right, well, I'm done. But I try to like encourage people like, no, like I promise, just keep trying and
Yeah.
something will hit. But I totally get the feeling of like it's discouraging sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And every time I think of like social media, and it's true that staying consistent, like even with my page when I first started, I had to post every single day. And if I didn't, like even when I was at like 50 followers, I'd lose like 10 followers. And when you have 50 followers, that's a lot of followers to lose. And so I would have to
Yeah.
post like every single day. I'd be like in bed at 1 a.m. making quotes so that I could post one for that day. And it always reminds me of a quote, and I don't know who said it, and I should because I'm a quote gal, but it's something to the tune of it's hard to beat someone who just doesn't quit. And I think that's true on social
Damn.
media. Like it's hard to beat a creator who's just going to keep creating and they're going to keep doing things that they feel good about. And I think if you just keep putting things out there, like you're going to something's going to hit, like you said. Like you just have to keep throwing it out there.
Yeah, and I actually love that quote that you can't beat someone who doesn't quit. That's because it's
Yeah.
like I love that, like, kind of I don't know, maybe because I came from the advertising agency, like, side of things where they're like, "Hustle harder." Like, that was, like,
Yeah.
ingrained in me for, like, not I'm like, "Oh my god," like, "Oh, I am at the agency. Yes, this is what I'm meant to do." Like, no, I'm
Yeah.
so burnt out. Yes.
It's true.
So,
We
but
don't wanna
I
take
love
that to
that.
a toxic level, but I think,
Yeah.
there's some good sides of that, like,
Yes, I agree.
idea that you can pull from.
I had my toxic period, though, in the work field, so,
Um, yeah, I
yeah.
can assume that ad agencies was not the most relaxed way of life.
No, especially at the peak before like, at the peak of, like, when we were all watching television still, like, it was
Oh,
anyways, well,
I can o
I'm though
I can only
yeah, that's
imagine.
another
Yes,
episode.
let's yeah, that's a part 2.
Yeah,
Um
yeah,
You already gave a great piece of advice, which I fully stand by, like we were just talking about, that, like, you just gotta throw things at a wall sometimes, and it
yeah.
will stick like a piece of spaghetti. But do you have another, or maybe you wanna expand upon that, but, we love asking people their best piece of advice. Is that your top best piece of advice, or do you have another piece?
Ooh, okay. This is a piece of advice that I need to follow more myself, but I when I do kind of get in this, like, zone, it's when you get to the point of, like, just not giving a fuck. And I say that in the sense of, like, you really sometimes have to tune out, like, what people think about you. I mean, when
Mhm.
I knew, like, when I started on TikTok, it's when I stopped caring what people thought of me and started making videos because it's so easy to get like clam up and be like, oh, I wonder what my friends are going to think about me. My family's going to think about this video. Like, once I said, like, shut everything out and just started creating for myself, that's like when I feel like I thrive. But it's when I think about like, oh, I think this person thinks I look stupid. Like, it's, but I say this, like, it's like my best piece of advice because when I take my own advice, and just post things and leave it and don't touch it and just like I'm leaving this video here because I like it. Like that's when amazing things can happen. But I still fall in the trap of like feeling embarrassed or should I have posted this or like I'm gonna take it down. My mom's not gonna like this. Like I'm 33 years old and I still think about my parents. My parents are actively watching my videos. So I get nervous. Um, but I just feel like when yeah, when you stop giving a fuck, I feel like that's because I hear so many people say, I'm just like, I'm so like nervous to post something. But once you just do it, like, and let that release your inhibitions, that's when things
As
happen.
Natasha
Yeah.
Bedingfield would say.
Yes, exactly.
I I really like that though, and I feel like that applies so well to clearly your career and anyone who's creating content on any level, but also like relationships in general. Like I feel like when you stop caring so much about people liking you in relationships, that's when you find the real relationships, like the ones that are good and where people like you for yourself.
Okay, I need to speak on that because I don't know if
Yes,
you know,
please
but
do.
I got engaged on a reality show.
Wait, I didn't know that?
Um, yeah, so I
What?
got engaged on this back in 2020 actually. I got engaged on this reality show. It was on HBO Max or Max called 12 Dates of Christmas. And it's crazy because it was filmed in Austria. Chad, my fiance, was a lead and I was a contestant. And I talk about the show being one of the best things that happened to me because it was the one time in my life where I truly just listened to myself. I didn't have my phone.
Mm,
I couldn't text my friends a photo or what they thought because I had a habit of getting kind of everybody involved and needing everybody's opinion and
mm,
caring what everybody thought about me. And I think that the show was such a great opportunity for me just to kind of like tune everything out. And this was like a decision for me. So I totally relate though, especially with relationships of kind of getting really carry what everybody thinks. And this was a time where I didn't. So it's really special to me.
oh my gosh. Yeah, first of all, okay, I guess then there needs to be a part 3 as well because we could dive real deep into that. I had no idea. But wow, you are like the biggest example of that then cuz most people will never know what it's like to be in a relationship without having had any input from anyone else. And
Yeah.
you are the success story. That is
Yeah.
incredible.
I was so scared when they took away my phone because I was like, Your instinct is I am telling you, I had the whole office buzzing about my relationships. Like I was spewing. I think I did it too because I wanted the reaction. I wanted the story. I wanted people to
Yeah.
like laugh. But I think it was important for me to like just tune into myself and really listen to like my gut, which sometimes like I don't
Yeah.
always do because I'm listening to so many other things.
Absolutely, and I think sometimes people really miss out on things maybe and, specifically romantic relationships that could be really successful, I think, because
Hmm.
either, like, their friends don't like the person or maybe a lot of times it's like the parents don't like the person, and I always, like, say to friends too, at the end of the day, you're the one sleeping next to that person every night. You're the one seeing them every day, like, your parents aren't living with them, your friends aren't living with them, you're the one who's gonna have to make that commitment, so you better make sure that you're the only one who really likes them. Like, because
Yes.
I just don't see another way.
It's so true, and now coming off a show like that, I have no judgment on relationships at all. Like, if you wanna get engaged to somebody
Interesting.
after the 2nd date, like, go for it, like and I
Yeah.
also try to be that supportive friend too. Like, I don't want to give an opinion, like, unless I feel like I wanna give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I was just talking to
Yeah.
a friend who's nervous to go on a date Saturday, and I'm like, "You just gotta do it." Like, you just gotta go. Like, yeah, his texting might seem weird right now, but, like, you never know. You have to let's meet someone in person. So just give him a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, input is always nice and clearly if you see a friend going down like a dangerous path, I would love to be
For
called
sure.
out. But it's always with the side note of at the end of the day, you have to like them. And if you like them, that's all that matters.
Yes.
But
I
wow, that is
agree.
so
Yes.
fascinating. Okay, so you probably had so many lessons from the show too. Okay, but okay.
Yeah.
Worst piece of advice you've ever gotten. I want to hear that too. Or like
Oh
a,
my
a
god.
quote that you hate or just like something that's never resonated with you.
Okay, well, a saying that I just don't like, I mean, it just rubs me the wrong way. I don't maybe I need to think of something deeper, but when people say "do you," I don't know. I just like think that's like the most like that triggers me for some reason when because I feel like it's so passive.
I mean, I do kind of like that though, because like, what does
Okay.
"do you" even mean?
I just don't like when people say that to me.
Yeah.
But also, I think something maybe it's not advice, but just something I grew up like being very private, kind of like never like sharing anything about myself. Like I kind of grew up being like therapy, like we don't talk about you go to therapy. Like I also had an eating disorder. And I kind of grew up like we don't tell anyone about your eating disorder because it just was a different time. But I
Yeah.
think that something so maybe that was advice early on that I got, but I feel like now, especially like being in like, the creator space, like, sharing, it's okay to be open. I think I'm also teaching myself. Maybe it's like a millennial habit I grew up with, but, like, it's okay to share sometimes and to not be so protective over everything and to just to, like to connect with people. Like, when I talk about, like, how I had an eat disorder, I don't realize how many people connect with that. So I feel like that's something I'm also trying to like retrain my brain in a way as I'm going through things, but, I'm in the process of trying to work on that, but I think the advice was some people love to overshare, but I also just like I think I need to learn to like it's okay to like be myself and just let people in a little.
That is such an interesting point because, I'm also a millennial. I'm 29, and I do feel like it comes so much more naturally to Gen Zers to be open with
Mhm.
things. And I also have like a knee-jerk reaction to like keep things kind of close to my chest. And it might be
Yeah,
like a product of just like when we were raised. It's true. Like no one if you were in therapy, I didn't know. I didn't know a single friend in therapy growing up. I didn't
yeah.
know a single friend who talked about an eating disorder. A lot of them ended up having them later on, but I didn't
Yes.
hear about it. And it is interesting. That's just not how we grew up.
No, not at all. Like I remember I don't know if coming from like corporate, like you had to keep things super like clean, like I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, the times are so different for I think the better. I do appreciate because I love watching people share their life. So I feel like sometimes it's
Yeah.
a lesson I need to like to take myself.
Yeah. No, and I think it's really beautiful. Like you said, I'm sure, especially with things like eating disorders, things that so many people struggle with. Like,
Mhm.
there's nothing more comforting than hearing, like, that someone else has been through it too and come out on the other side.
Yeah.
Like, there's no
Yeah.
better therapy session than sitting with someone face to face and hearing like, "Yeah, I know exactly how you're feeling."
Yes, and TikTok actually has been such a great space, like, to connect with people. Like, I remember it was, like, right after COVID, I, like, had my first, like, intrusive thought, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, I was like, "What side of, like" I I know I have anxiety, but, like, what is this? And I remember I found this woman on TikTok, and she, like, made a video about, like, her intrusive thoughts, and I messaged her right away, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've never seen someone, like, articulate, like, their intrusive thoughts." I thought I was alone, and then it brought, like, this whole other big community, and so, and that's from her sharing her experience, and that really, like, got me through a time where I was, like, a new post-COVID mental health thing, like, emerged. So, yeah, so I just I don't know where I'm rambling and going with this. It's just nice
No.
sometimes when people open up to connect with them.
You never know how it's gonna
Yeah.
help people. I love that. I really
Great,
love that.
yeah.
Do you have a biggest lesson maybe that you've taken away from your life thus far during one of the hardest times that you've gone through?
I think riding the wave is something really like a lesson I've learned is that even every day you just have to ride the wave. I'm learning there's ups. Some days are really high, some days are really low. Some days like work's great, some days work's not, some days my mental health's great. And as someone who has like really severe anxiety, riding the wave is not always the easiest thing. I love routine. I like to know what's going to happen. I don't like surprises, but um, I'm really grateful for my fiance because he's kind of taught me that to like ride the wave and to like not give up and to like some days, yeah, are bad. Like sometimes I have bad mental health days. I'm just like, instead of pushing it, I'm just like, I'm just gonna ride this wave and we'll be back at it tomorrow. So just kind of like learning to go with the flow with things, which hasn't always been easy for me. Because I've seen some days like you just never know what tomorrow's gonna bring. You could have like you just never know what's around the corner, especially like in the social media world. So you just really have to like or people who just work for themselves too. If you're not even in social media, if you own your own business, like, or actually applies to literally anything. just like kind of going with the flow. You don't even have to be in social media.
I love that. I love that concept because waves have highs and they have lows, but for every low, there is a high right around the corner. And
Hmm.
I think, like you very astutely said, like when you're having a bad day, it feels like that bad day is going to be for the rest of forever. And like at least like for
Yeah.
me, that's what happens. Like when I'm low, it just I think I get lower because I'm like, well, this is how I'm stuck for the rest of my life. And that's
Yes.
actually my entire life never proven to be true. The bad days have always
Yeah.
come to an end, and yet I still think that they will last forever when they happen.
That's actually what my therapist always reminds me. She's like, think about like you think about has this proven to be true? Like what in your life has
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying? Like when therapists do that, they're like,
Yeah.
what when sometimes when you feel stuck, they're like, I don't know, you've gotten through this how many other times in your life? Like you will get through this as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But if for some reason it's so hard to remember your track record when you're in that
Yes.
space, it seems like, no, this time's different and I got through all the other times, but this time I'm not going to get through. And
Okay.
yet then you get through it again and we just have to keep reminding ourselves of that.
Yes. Also, I've learned that two things can be true. And that's been another big one.
I love
Like
that.
you can be unhappy with how the day went, but you can still finish it. Or you can still I was so black and white for such a long time. And I feel like that's been the biggest thing is like, yeah, I can be unhappy how this video went today, but I also can continue to make a video tonight, like a new one tonight, or show up tomorrow. Like I'm learning that I don't always have to like agree with everything, but I can still choose like something else can be true or choose another option.
I love that. It's so true. I feel like we only think one thing can be right at a time.
Yeah,
Why do we
exactly.
think that?
I don't know. And I mean, that relates to like dating too. Like you might not like want to go on the date, but like you still might choose to go to get out. Like
No,
it's just it kind of like so many things.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's very true with the little exposure I've gotten with motherhood now. Like I feel like you could say
Hmm.
like, yeah, motherhood can be really hard and you can also like love your child more than anything in the world. And like both of those things are
Exactly.
very true all at the same time.
Yes. I mean, I feel like that's been my biggest phrase to people for film. That's why I'm like spewing out to everybody
No,
because I,
it's
yeah, I'm
I
glad you
love
like that
that.
one.
I love
Yeah.
it. I really love that. Okay, now we're going to flip the script and I would love to
Okay.
know what piece of advice you would give to someone else who maybe was on the precipice of trying to get into content creation, start their own thing, where you were kind of while you were at Ulta wondering if you should take the leap. What would you tell them?
Yeah. Okay. Couple things. I mean, again, the consistency, like choose a couple days. If you don't overwhelm yourself, you don't have to make a video every day, but I would say choose a couple days of the week that you decide you're going to post. Set aside 20 minutes, 5 minutes, speak to camera. I think just creating a routine for yourself will make things easier and not feel so overwhelming. Um, I think also investing in a ring light and a microphone. I feel like that was one of the things that helped me was the ring light. Like I lived in a garden unit in Chicago. I had no lighting underground. I mean, I was living like I was like, how am I going to do skits with no light? And the ring light was a good investment for me. That's like off Amazon. So just investing in the equipment, a stand, just to kind of like get your space. And then and then just like post it. I mean, that's my biggest advice. Like, don't second guess yourself. It's this thing called the 5 second rule. And I've been trying to, and maybe this can apply, I could finish this on like this, but it's the 5 second rule. And whenever you're doubting yourself, count down from five, five, four, three, two, one, and do it. So just post it. Don't second guess yourself because so many beautiful things can happen when we don't stop ourselves from doing something. And I just been doing that because sometimes it's hard to motivate myself to like get out of bed, to do something. So I just been counting down and then blasting off like a rocket ship to go do something. Cause then I don't give my brain time to think about what I'm doing. I just kind of do it. So maybe if you're super hesitant into getting into content creation, try that countdown and just let yourself not overthink because it is such a space where you can overthink and compare yourself to everybody. And just so if someone's starting out, just know how you feel as someone who has 10 million followers probably feels. It doesn't really ever change.
Love
So
it.
you just gotta like get out there.
I love it. And I guess that's been true in several aspects of your life because you also went on a show probably as a huge leap of faith and ended up
Yeah.
meeting your love of
My
your life
person.
from it.
Honestly, like, and that was such a risk. That was something I never, well, I did try out for The Bachelor twice, so we don't talk about it. I needed to,
Oh
need
my
to talk
gosh, you
about
are
that.
just a treasure
No,
trove.
my fiance, I just showed him like this.
World's
I
most
need to post
fascinating
it.
person.
No, it's so weird. I have a video of me like with a rose, like down the streets of Chicago, like waving a rose. Like I need to post
Oh
this
my
video because
gosh.
it's
I'm
there.
expecting this tonight. Please.
I know I need to like. Do you know that sound where it's like, I remember
Yeah.
when I lost my mind for 2 years. But yeah, you just gotta like take a
Oh,
risk. Like who knew I would have
who
met my
knows?
fiance? Because I was so single. Go on a show, meet my person. 4 years later, now we're in California. So it's kinda crazy.
No, honestly, there are people who say, like, take risks with your life, but, like, okay, if you've never taken a risk, I don't really trust you. But you can say that because you going
Yeah.
on that show and taking that chance and having it really turn out is, like,
Mhm.
something most people do not get from the chance that kind of a crazy chance.
I feel like I live my life like if it scares me, I gotta do it. I think this
I
most
love
recent
that.
one has been moving to California. I was so scared to do it. Like, this was such a big leap, leaving my family, leaving like Chicago was my comfort zone, my comfort blanket, actually, like, or a security blanket. That's the word. And I was like, you know what? But I've had this itch. I feel like Chapel Roan, like where she like that Pink Pony Club is like calling her name. Like that's how California felt to me. And I like needed to go and I took the risk. And I actually I love this state. I find it so beautiful. I just like love the sun and I'm so happy I took it. But it came with a risk. And also like I listen to my parent. I'm 33. I like listen to everything my parents say, and like I know they were so worried. And I think the biggest hump is like not listening to my parents, even though I can live my life. But I value
Yeah.
my family and like what they say and stuff so much. So I'm still taking that risk and happy. But sometimes they don't work out. You know what? I've also had taken risks and they flop, and you learn your lesson. So, but
Yeah,
at
but
least I say I
maybe the
tried.
learning the lesson is the success of the risk, you know? Like,
Yes,
I think that, like, yeah, sometimes they don't work out the way you thought they would, but they always work out in a way because, like, either it succeeds or you learn something.
exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I think I have so many social, like awkward social interactions throughout the day. And I'm like, that's a mistake. I'll never lead a conversation like that again. Like that's been my recent ones. Like a Chase Bank today. I'm like, what? Like, why would I ask that? Like, I learn my lesson and rephrase it differently. Lesson.
I heard
Yeah.
someone one time talk about, like, social interactions and they leave and they just think to themselves, "Not my best work." And I think about
Oh,
that all the
all
time.
the time.
It's just me
I
all the
think
time, like, my best work.
literally, totally. Oh my God. I'm glad you relate with that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think that is so beautiful, and I just wow, I had no idea the plethora of unique experiences you've had, but I'm so grateful that you came onto the show and took some time to share them with us, and if there is anyone, like I just said, anyone who can really stand by her words and her advice, it's you because you've really put these things into action, and we're just thank you for sharing them with us.
No, thank you for having me on. It feels good to like to talk to you, talk to like people. I mean, I really am in my studio with my dog all the time. So it just feels good to talk to and also like remind myself because I'm not kidding when I'm very hard on myself. So to like just talk it out with someone feels good. So thank you for having me
Yeah.
on.
Oh, absolutely. I know that if people aren't already following you, they're going to want to after this conversation. So, can you tell us where people can go to follow you and your work and your life, your new fun life in California?
Like you can follow me at it's Kate Steinberg on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
If you
I have
guys
a
need a
cute dog,
good
so
laugh, or I mean, it's like laughs, but also just if you are a millennial, so relatable. The amount of your videos that I send to my sister, because it's just like you wouldn't, you just, if you didn't grow up in that era, you wouldn't understand how amazing it is. But if you did, they just capture it so well. So if you're a millennial and you want to have a great night, just go to her page and watch all her videos.
Oh my God, I'm throwing my millennial heart hand. Thank you so much for that. That's so
Oh,
sweet.
of course, of course. Kate, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure. Everyone watching, listening, thank you for tuning into the shift. Don't forget to subscribe. Let us know what you think of the episode. And we will see you happily next time. Thanks, guys.
TTYL.